What's up, you lovely human beings out there? Frank Valkyrie, welcome to the channel. How you guys doing? Let me know in the comments below. So, it appears that this new documentary, it's dividing a little bit the mainstream media, the media in general, and I'll tell you why in a second. But also, I haven't watched the documentary yet. I'll try to watch it this week or at the end of the week. I was just reading articles. If you have watched it, probably you know more than I do. But from reading here, you can see that some people seem upset, some people seem happy. So, first thing first, we have this article here from this NME News, Skibbidoos, and I don't know what it means. But the documentary is not getting a lot of stars. What I find interesting in this article in particular, it seems here that this writer, let's see, who is the writer of this? Can we see writer? Who are you? Nick Levine? Nick Levine seems sort of upset a little bit that the documentary seems to side a little bit too much with Johnny. I don't know. It's difficult not to be cynical about this two-part documentary purporting to tell the inside story of Depp versus Heard trial. It arrives less than 4 months after Johnny Depp largely won his defense against ex-wife Amber Heard, which doesn't leave much room for perspective or indeed editing. Given that the news coverage of the trial has already generated a staggering number of social media interaction, more per article than Russia's according to one report. Did I say Rush? I get demonetized. Do we really need more content for shonky online commentators to feed off? Somebody hates his job. It's not just a Rush job, one that looks a bit hicky. But actually, Johnny versus Amber, the US trial, is more workmanlike than crudely sensationalist. A follow-up to the 2020 Johnny versus Amber previous two-part about Depp's failed libel case against the Sun. It adopts the same format. Episode 1 tells the story from Depp's perspective. The episode 2 supplies Heard's side. We are giving only a cursory recap of the earlier trial, which Depp lost when a London High Court judge found that the Sun was entitled to label him a wife, whatever, because Heard's evidence against him was substantially true. Oh man, this guy is such a piece of... The UK trial, everybody knows now that was mishandled so incredibly bad, was really handled really badly. And the judge just believed by default whatever she was saying. A lot of stuff was not brought in. So really, yes, he lost against the Sun, but really says nothing. And that's why actually in Virginia he won. And also this guy loves to misquote. The Fairfax County, Virginia trial, which centered on a 2018 op-ed Heard wrote for the Washington Post, in which she called herself a public figure representing domestic without ever mentioning Depp by name. He really wants to stress that, which is also a lie. Luckily, people went through the documents available, and I just want to remind Nick Levine that there is a clear email exchange between Amber Heard team and the LCLU, whatever it's called, the humanitarian, which states, and actually they correct, the first draft of that article, which mentions her previous marriage with Johnny Depp, I suppose, and the ACLU, or LDS, whatever, offers to correct it, to try not to mention it, but from their email, they're talking of JD. So, BS, right there. So, the Depp episode has some revealing moments. Attorney Camille Vasquez admitted that convincing Kate Moss to testify on her client's behalf was not foregone conclusion. Again, I have the feeling that also this article is trying to depict Johnny Depp in a bad light. Again, mainstream media, you see where this guy is siding with, and he seems just salty like that umbrella guy says all the time. He seems just upset that the documentary wasn't focused more around Amber, even though the lawyers didn't even want to be part of it from Amber's side. So I have the feeling that the documentary probably sides a little bit more with Johnny, and this guy is just mad. Stay mad, all right? So this other article here focuses in a different way. In fact, says, Johnny versus Amber, the U.S. trial documentary seemed to side with Amber H as well. So we have the other side here. I don't know why he's saying this or she's saying this. But Discovery seemed to side with the actress. One of Johnny Depp's lawyers even says her statement in front of the jury were credible. Again, this is a misquote from Bencho, and there is always a little bit of misrepresentation here from the mainstream media in this article. Bencho was quoted by saying this, but by no means he intended that she was credible because she was saying the truth. She seemed to be certain areas because she was lying, and therefore they had to use a very good techniques, lawyering techniques, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that the truth was brought to the table. And in fact, they did manage to do that, and they won. So again, misquoting Bencho right there. Millions of people support him and made Amber H the villain of the story. Well, the problem is this. All those articles, they always fail to mention that there are hours of audio available out there that were not included in the trial for the jury. At least not fully. At least not the one shown live, when we also saw the snippets played by both sides of the teams there, JD and H. So they always fail to mention that, and a lot of people watching the trial, they did rely on it. We shared it, we talked about it, we commented it. Those audios were recorded mostly by H, were leaked out, it's in the public, and mostly it's thanks to those audio tapes, audio files, that people made up their mind, And even the snippets from which were shown in the trial, I think were of fundamental importance for the jury to decide. No article ever mentions this. So we always have to mention this in order to rectify those articles, which they always seem to come, out of a little bit like, I didn't know that, but believe Amber, just believe her, woman, it seems. That's how they behave. So there is really nothing in those documentary, honestly, even if it sides more with Johnny Depp, that can tell us more than what actually we have learned out of hours and hours and hours of streaming, checking the audios, and then watching the trial together. So this new announcement comes during the same week in which actress Cara Delevingne is going through a rough period in her life. We know this. It seems that she's going through some rehab, possibility. I mean, probably the woman has to go to rehab. She seems to have some addictions problem, unfortunately for her. But yeah, so I might look into this, but I don't think there's going to be a lot, whatever editing it's done or not. So I'm actually also waiting for Jessica Reed Krause to give us a little bit more. Also in this article, they basically refer to her as a gossip columnist. And I think what she did in sharing some information, some hearsay stories so far, but still, the story from Gia and the parties, the Great Gatsby parties in LA, where there were all those girls and things were going on with rich billionaires, and she was the sort of queen bee, Amber H. At least that's what we learned in those articles. I'm not saying this. I'm just sharing with you what I read. It's quite powerful stuff. So I'm actually still looking to hear more from Jessica. I don't know if she's taking her time, to release the rest of the story. So, guys, what do you think about this documentary? Again, mainstream media doing what they do, dividing the audience. A little bit like this guy seems like disappointed that the documentary could not bring any new evidence that could rewrite the story. And you know why? Because there is so much evidence against. And also, let's not forget, Johnny Depp won the trial. She defamed him. So that op-ed was defamatory. Let's not forget that. And we have learned way more. There is part of this article where it says oh, it's a pity that the documentary doesn't focus on the misogyny that Amber H had to endure in the eyes of the public opinion on the internet, on social media. Oh man, I'm so freaking tired. Every time when those guys have nothing to talk about, they immediately have to revert, oh, misogyny out there. It's never like, hey, look, people are not fools, right? We have heard hours of audio where this woman was belittling this man on and on and on and on. That does not call for a lot of sympathy, okay? That's not misogyny, because the majority of people does not hate women. That's just like people don't like that specific person because of all that we have seen. That's it. So please, misogyny card, throw it in the bucket, use some actual facts. So guys, let me know your thoughts on these documentaries. Please consider subscribing, and thank you so much for the support. You know that I incredibly appreciate that. I'll see you tomorrow. Always spread love. Ciao.